Welcome, everybody, to the Connected Commerce podcast. And I have my great friend and the agency owner and the CEO, Drew Morgans, with me.
Thanks for having me. Hi, I'm excited to be here on the podcast, and it's covering a subject that I'm very passionate about. So I'm looking forward to getting into it with you.
Absolutely. So I'm also very excited. So today we're going to talk about a couple of stories around connected commerce because we both, Drew and I, started from this Amazon thing, but right now it's not anymore about Amazon. There is AI, there is tech, there is Google, Meta, 3PL, all different parts of the things coming together, and we're trying to also expand to all of them. So Drew, let's start with the first one. Like, where do you see that connected commerce really adding more value to the brands?
So, hi, I've been doing this for 15 years now, obsessively. And, I think the old tried and true is still true. Like if a brand is in retail, you see overflow, into e-commerce. Like, and there's a big difference between a brand in retail and a brand not. You start to see branded search and things like that, which help all the way to that being a detriment where, let's say agencies or pros are running so much branded search that they're not even finding new customers on Amazon. But that's also a good thing for smaller brands. And so a smaller brand that doesn't have branded search or top of funnel and starts to see that coming from another channel like Meta or TikTok or, even TV or something like that really creates this effect on Amazon and beyond that they've been recreating for a long time. So what we're talking about now is like white hat, okay, which is like, running a TikTok shop marketplace or meta ads, and there's an overflow halo effect onto Amazon. But before that, in the Amazon world, there was always search, find, buy, or some of these tactics that people use to launch products. And what that was you're taking someone from off of Amazon, they're coming onto Amazon, they're looking for your product, they're buying it, and Amazon rewards that in the algorithm. And so that's neither here nor there. It's not just about launching products, but it's always been the case. But how does one affect the other? How do we track it? If you're a service provider, how do you validate that to a customer? Proving the attribution or proving the halo effect or how all these things work together. It's been quite the challenge, but it's been fun.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, you already talk about this halo effect. I'm sure with market knowledge now, you have Amazon, Shopify, Walmart, TikTok, all that stuff. So with Amazon, for example, when people I'm sure you talk about the effect, but when it comes to measuring it, of course, the brands are super excited. Like they understand the inevitability, like there has to be other channels. But how do you measure that halo effect on Amazon?
So I think this is where like the advanced stuff comes in, because if you're not, like, I'm an owner operator, meaning I'm in the weeds. I like to learn this stuff. I've built brands on TikTok and Amazon both, so I know how they work. Not every business is like that. Not every consultant is like that. Not every team is like that. And a lot of times we're working with brands that are brand managers, or so they're not about the tactics, it's about them managing the brand, right? And so a lot of times how to actually validate that or tell a customer is very difficult, because if they have a brand manager on the other side of you, and let's say that I'm not managing Amazon and TikTok, I'm just managing one. Well, I have to get the other vendor or service provider to play ball nicely and share information. It's also knowing how both of them work so you can find the overlapping parts. There's software that can help with that, yes, but there's also other things like you don't have branded search on your Amazon listing in your search query performance report or your PPC, and then all of a sudden you see some branded search coming. Well, where's that coming from? Well, we've been running TikTok, or we've been running Meta, or things like that. And because you're controlling both of them, or you're getting those insights, you're communicating about it, So there's things like Amazon attribution. I'll tell you a quick story where, Amazon attribution gives you a brand referral bonus, like on Google ads or a Meta ad or something like this. We all know that it works a percentage of the time. There's also like buy with Prime, other ways of tracking Shopify to Amazon. But Amazon attribution is kind of the known way, or that branded search on PPC, or that increased search on search query performance report, or things like that. But here's a real life situation that happened like last month. So I'm working as something I offer is like a fractional e-commerce director for a couple brands at a time, and where I'm sitting kind of above the agencies or whatever, right? So a company has their internal people. Those internal people, they have agencies that work for them, even my own company, but I'm kind of above that, saying like, how does all the vendors work together? What's our big structure? What's our big strategy? What's our big overarching, direction? How's the overlapping connected commerce work, so to speak, right? So I'm in the weeds there. And a month ago, a scenario came up where the girl that runs Google and Meta at their company, we run it together. She's like on the brand side. She comes to me with our list before our call. We have like a weekly call, and she's like, I think I want to cut this ads for this listing on Meta. We're not getting the return that we need. I don't really see any conversions happening, among a list of other things. Well, because I'm in the weeds, I know on Amazon that the listing she's referring to is one of our top sellers. Okay. It's so immediately question mark comes up, and I'm like, because we don't have attribution on that, there's nothing that's like connecting it, whatever. And the team is just starting to learn how to look at all of the channels together. So, my first thought is, why is it not converting? Is price not the same? Is the landing page not the same? Is the cart, is the add to cart not working on the website? All of the basic things that you're going to check to be, why aren't we getting conversions? But what I found was, this is a product that doesn't really have branded search. And all of a sudden on Amazon, we have a lot of branded search, right? So I start, kind of piecing together, what's happening there. And essentially Meta, it should be counting a lot of the sales on Amazon as its sales versus the website sales. There's a little bit of a price difference too on Amazon that was kind of encouraging them to buy on Amazon versus the website, which is, I think, why we had 0 sales. It wasn't a significant number, but enough that, I know people go and search on Amazon once they see an ad or something, they do that. And if we had just turned off that Meta ad because we were just looking in that silo and being like, it's not converting, we would have lost a lot of momentum on the Amazon side. And if that Amazon team was in a silo, they'd be like, we don't know what happened. We've been running ads the same. We've been like, there's no listing violations, no bad reviews. We have stock good. What happened? So if one hand is not talking to the other hand, like let's say the Meta team or the Google team is not talking to the Amazon team, and you really start to say, what is working? How's it working? What's, the changes? That's how you get yourself, fixing one problem to create another, and not really understand what's happening in your business. So from there, we dug in and found out all those things and really realized, hey, this spend that's here is actually a very profitable spend. It's just helping us look really good on Amazon. It wasn't an intentional thing they had set up. It was more of like a side effect. Like, we knew it happened a little, but that was something I was teaching them, showing them, digging into it, and kind of recreating that story. And that took a little bit of time, but just like a real life scenario. That's how it's working in brands and stuff like that. And so we can be more intentional. We can have the landing page pushed to Amazon if we want. We can have it there on Shopify. We can encourage them to buy on the site versus Amazon with the lower rate, or whatever those tactics and strategies are. But you don't want something happening and not knowing why. I think the goal is understanding what's driving what, and what are the ways you can track it, and what are the unknowns.
Amazing. I mean, this is a fascinating story. And as you said, like the Meta ads impacting the impressions, the conversions on the Amazon, and the Meta person probably just looking into Shopify and cannot see that conversion. So that's why the holistic management, the omnichannel brand management, makes a lot of sense. Like, that is one of the things that we see for the last 18 months. Like, whenever I look at the brand and they just work Amazon silo, Walmart silo, the Google, the Shopify, and these silos are even managed by different maybe agencies or internal people. They don't talk to each other. And I mean, you also touched on another interesting thing. You said even the price is different on Shopify and Amazon, and maybe that was done on purpose in that specific case. But when the Shopify guys drop the price, now Amazon is higher. The next thing Amazon is doing, okay, so let's remove the buy box. When the Shopify price is higher, then people buy from Amazon, and the customer doesn't see that, because of course, every customer wants the consumers to use the Shopify, but why this is not happening is another problem. And they are together. So there are different ways of Amazon to think that the price is the same on a Shopify, but maybe on Shopify there is a different way of getting a better discount. So price is another one. Advertising definitely needs to be holistically managed, even the budgets. And then the overall omnichannel brand management is another one. So we also talked about maybe the effect of logistics, like 3PL. A lot of course, every brand is using in some way a 3PL, maybe an agency too. But I mean, inventory is like one of the key things, like you don't want to be out of stock and everything. How do you see that connection, or how do you work on that one when it comes to your agency?
So, I would say inventory and inventory management is like the top three things to focus on. Like the same thing, focus on inventory, supply chain, inventory, supply chain, inventory, supply chain, because there's nothing worse than launching a good product and then it running out of stock. And then you're just fighting back that it's just trying to fight back to get where you were before you ran out of stock, or, subscribe and save being a major play for a lot of brands, and how that's integrated. And are you doing that on the website? Are you doing that on Amazon? There's so many ways to integrate, but there's so much margin being taken all the time as well, So I think you can't just reserve your creativity as a brand operator just for the images, just for the product itself when you're designing it. You got to be creative in the warehouse. You got to be creative in your supply chain. You got to be creative in your advertising strategies. I just mean like thinking outside the box, bundling things, finding offers, finding ways to provide new value, and really thinking like, okay, this customer is on this channel. Why are they on this channel? Because they're researching, or because they came from social, or because they're a Walmart customer, or because they're comfortable here. Each customer has a little bit of difference and nuance as well. And so trying to figure out what offer is going to get that customer on that channel is a big deal. And I do think on the Shopify side of things, that offer is really important. And so, we're talking about inventory, but we're also talking about what works where and why. And I think that, on Amazon, they have expectations. On a website, they have expectations. And something I've been repeating lately the last few weeks is just this reminder whenever I'm doing a speaking event or webinar, this reminder to other e-commerce operators like us that this is an A/B testing. This is always an R&D testing industry environment. Like e-commerce is not set it and forget it. It's not an SOP that never changes. It's constantly like, that's what makes it great. That's also what makes it stressful and hard, is it's always changing. So you have to be trying new things, and finding new ways to win. For a simple example would be this MCF on Amazon right now. For anyone listening, is multi-channel fulfillment, where you're using your Amazon FBA inventory to fulfill Shopify or to fulfill TikTok Shop or whatever it might be. And I own a warehouse, so I want those FBM orders as well, or the kitting orders, sure, for revenue. But on the brand side, MCF is offering 35% off on TikTok Shop fulfillment or things like that. They're offering a deal right now, an offer for Amazon sellers or agencies. At least I've seen it as an agency. And even if for like 3-6 months, I moved the brand to MCF and they got a 35% discount on all of their shipping rates, that's a big deal. So just finding what you can leverage where, and like what's going to be the best for you. What I've found is it's usually a hybrid of options. We've got some in FBA, some in FBM, some in AWD or whatever it is, right? Like finding the best one. And Walmart and TikTok Shop are quickly becoming, you need to almost use their fulfillment to really be successful also, and really pushing brands and operators to use their fulfillment services as well to get the most out of the platform. So it becomes a level of, how complicated should I make it? What's the best margin play a lot of times, or the best customer service side of it? There's not really a one answer for all. It's really just try to figure out what works best.
Absolutely. Now, I think, you're one of the at least two agencies. Now we're talking to each other right now in this call, and we also own the 3PL, the warehouses too. And I always see an amazing advantage of that. And although we see the advantage, I was talking to our supply chain leader. Now, this promotion that you mentioned, it made a lot of sense for the brand. So although we have the FBM orders, like we switched to, because we managed the TikTok, etc., we switched to that promotion, right? But of course, like when the time comes, there's no promotion, then it's also important to have the flexibility to switch back to your own, warehouse, because hard to rely on anybody at the end of the day. Like, it's sometimes better that you have that FBM channel. You never know what will happen with the FBA channel. And if there is a problem, it's not easy to call someone on Amazon warehouses and try to get some input. Like maybe they lost your stuff and it will pop up maybe in 6 weeks back after some reimbursement claim or something like that. So everything is in a way connected. Having that 3PL is probably giving a lot of advantage too. Any other ideas about how this 3PL brings an advantage?
So let's talk about
agency?
let's talk about connected commerce, right? Like it's in the name, but thinking about inventory again in the warehouse play, for me, it's always been about I want as many options available to me as possible because business is hard, life is hard, and you need to be able to pivot. And if you've only left yourself one way out, well, you don't have options. So it's about creating options and for yourself or your brands. Like the pandemic taught us that, right? Like FBA, always the way, always the way. I mean, I was an FBM lover way before the pandemic, but the pandemic showed, essential products only. Anyone that wasn't already in a warehouse or 3PL was struggling to get into one. FBM got ranked higher in all the search results for a time, why FBA was trying to catch up because they were overwhelmed, and anything can happen. And if we're in business, it used to just be Q4 and Prime Day we had to stress about, but then a pandemic happened and we had new challenges. New products continue to get pushed onto Amazon that do well, big bulky items that now are in even LTL shipments or FBM. For me, that's a brand builder. I have some of my own brands that I'm passionate about and building, and I like to stay in the weeds. Like, to be a great agency owner, I like to know what brands are going through and what they're working with. Being able to, for example, you have a top selling product, you can include some inserts and give an offer on maybe some of your not so popular products or new products that you're launching, or take Amazon customers and get them into your email funnel on the Shopify site, or vice versa, right? So use your email list to launch products on Amazon, and a lot of that can happen. That post purchase, I call it post purchase optimization, where you're really fine tuning everything that happens after the customer gets the item, from getting them off of Amazon or off of TikTok Shop. How do you get your affiliates that have made purchases with TikTok Shop? It comes to your Shopify. A lot of times you see them there. We're grabbing them. Maybe this is a little gray area, but sending them a text, getting them into our Discord so that we can engage with them and keep them in the community, or else you're just lost in the TikTok Shop DMs and you never find them again. So a lot of that happens in the warehouse. That insert, that sticker, that maybe it's just 100 at a time, a bundling, an influencer package. A lot of that's happening in the warehouse. And if one of the reasons I have one, it's just a small operation, like here in Kansas City, maybe 20,000 square feet for context. So but I'm able to try things 10 at a time, 50 at a time, 100 at a time, because we're all on the same team. We're all working toward the same end, which is like, making brands have a better chance of success, including our own. And to be creative, if you're with a big operation, you need to get a contract, new scope of work, get them to price that thing, get them to say yes or no, or maybe so. On that, with my team, we're able to try it quickly, react quickly. And that's another area where I was saying, be creative in the warehouse and inventory as well with what you're doing. You could try things and see if they work. There's no harm, no foul, other than a lot of times your time, maybe a little bit of labor with some paper or something, But I do think that it's all of the little things like a good insert, or an extra communication in there, letting them know you're a family brand or whatever, that really makes the difference in good e-commerce brands.
Absolutely. I mean, all these little things that you mentioned, I think we can talk about each of them for 10, 15 minutes as a kind of a best practice, or a practice that brings different channels together. And that's also the reason why I love this, having a 3PL, because we already mentioned like three main areas, like the brand strategy, having a single holistic brand strategy for every single channel. That's one area. Advertising, you mentioned about the Meta to Amazon. There's also all the other different combinations there, right? So that's one area. And also keeping the advertising budget, also thinking about it at a holistic level. And now you're talking about all this, having the 3PL or options, MCF, everything. Then, you can switch the customer from one channel to another, especially if it's about
You're in
Shopify.
control of, yeah.
That's the best. Yeah. So I love it. I think we should definitely have another session, Drew. So I'm very, very happy that, we had this conversation, and I'm sure that it will help our audience to think about like all these different things that I'm sure they are inspired by this, but we should definitely follow up on this, have another session too. So thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for having me. This is a topic that I'm obsessing about. I'm working through every single day. I think this is the next layer. You've got AI bringing it all together, and software bringing it all together as well. But it's really like the human creativity behind that really is what changes the game, so to speak, for a brand. So there's so many different ways to win. And it's like being like Sherlock Holmes, I guess, around like, what's the best way to do it for my brand in this moment. So thanks for having me. And I look forward to being back.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, bro.